Welcome to the hot mess of holiday aftermath. Hello everyone and welcome to the DeHart house. My name is Alicia and I'm your host of this crafty channel here on YouTube. Today is December 31st, the last day in 2024. It is New Year's Eve and I'm recording this episode on time. Let's hope I get it posted on time as well. In this episode, I'm going to talk about all the things I managed to craft and create in the month of December. And it's going to be tough to only talk about December and not the whole year, because it's also the last day of the year, not just the last day of the month. And I'm really excited to start a new calendar year. But before we can do that, I need to talk about the things that I made in the month of December. So let's get rolling. So the first thing that came off of my needles, out of my works in progress into the finished pile, was a set of dishcloths, washcloths, that I knit. I did knit these. So this is out of Sugar and Cream 100% cotton yarn. The color is Sea Breeze. Beach Glass? Sea Breeze? Oh, I don't even know. Whatever. It's a soft green color, and I made 4 of them. Each one has a different stitch pattern to it, but they're all just knits and purls. Nothing fancy, no slip stitches, no cabling, just super straightforward. I knit all of these straight across in rows, none of them on the bias, because knitting dishcloths and towels on the bias have been coming out really skewed for me, and I find it annoying that it doesn't look like a square or rectangle. It looks misshapen. So yeah, so I finished a set of 4. I used 2 big balls of the yarn. This is 4 ounces, 113 grams, 190 yards. I used 2 of these, and I do have quite a bit left over. Not enough to make another dishcloth though, so I weighed each of these and found an average weight, and I have less than that left over, so not quite enough. That's okay. So this used, I wrote it down, 311 yards out of my stash, which makes me very happy. And I have 4 more towels that we can use in the kitchen. My next finished object is a doozy. It is my 2-color broken seed stitch fingering weight pullover sweater, which is a mouthful. But yes, the whole thing is finished. I have blocked it, I have woven in all the ends, I have worn this 3 times already. I think I finished this on Christmas Eve. Either Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve. It makes me so happy. So this was a sweater I loosely followed a raglan style sweater pattern that I already have in my library, and adapted it to have this stitch pattern on it. and I love it. It's absolutely wonderful. I did modify, so I did not follow the raglan sweater pattern exactly. The pattern I used as a reference was So Faded Sweater by Andrea Mowry. It's a paid-for pattern that I had already purchased, and I've knit that pattern twice now, as written. And I wanted to use it as a guide for shaping and stitch counts and things to get the sweater started, since I also used a fingering weight yarn, which was very helpful. But I modified it by using the stitch pattern, but I also modified the sleeve decreases by making my own little like puff sleeve at the end. I did rolled over hems for the sleeves and the collar. And I thought about also doing that with the bottom edge, but I don't have enough yarn to do that. So that's just not even possible, which is fine. So the bottom hem is not rolled. It's just 1x1 ribbing with a bind off, which is totally fine. The yarn that I used is from Knit Picks. This is Knit Picks palette yarn, and this is how much I have left of each color. This is not a full ball. I did dip into this a little bit, but you can see it's almost a full ball, so I was able to put the label back on here so I know the color. But this is all I have left of the green, which is not very much. So the colors I used are, the green color is called Aurora Heather, and the light brown is called Hare Heather, hare as in a rabbit. It is Knit Picks palette yarn, which is not a superwash wool. It is 100% Peruvian Highland wool. This will need to be hand washed. I cannot put this sweater in the washing machine. Do you hear that, family? This sweater cannot go in the washing machine. This is my pride and joy right now, and we can't ruin it. But yes, I'm really happy that I estimated the yarn so closely. I have knit quite a few sweaters, and then I have a lot of leftover yarn, and then I feel like, what am I going to do with 1.5 balls of this yarn? Like, this is not yarn I'm going to make socks out of because it's 100% wool, unless I intend to felt it. But anyway, I feel really good that I estimated that so closely. I don't feel wasteful. It's amazing. And I love the colors. I think it was a fantastic choice to go with the green and the brown. It just has so much depth to it. It looks, in my opinion, it looks so luxurious. Yes, the yarn feels amazing next to skin. I wore this with just a t-shirt underneath, and it felt great on my arms. It didn't feel itchy, scratchy, or anything. The collar, I did kind of pull it a little tight, only just a smidge. I didn't want it to be super loose. So the yarn that I used to sew this down, because I knit this twice as long and folded it over and sewed it in on the inside. And I did pull it so that it would keep this collar, give it a little more structure so it didn't just open up. And it's at just the right spot that it goes over my head fine. I do have to take my glasses off to do so. But it goes over my head fine, and it holds its shape. And I'm now completely in love with doing a folded over ribbed collar and hem. I love a tubular cast off, but I also feel like this just adds, I mean, it's double thick. You can feel it, you can see it. It adds a lot to the garment, in my opinion. But yes, it did grow just a little bit with blocking, and I'm really glad it did because I had knit the collar. I hadn't done the folded over yet. I had just done 1x1 ribbing for 1.5 inches and bound off. And at the time, it was great. That was before I made the sleeves. Then I made the sleeves and it pulled open the neckline, which I didn't like. I wanted it to be somewhat of a snug neckline. So I had picked this back up and made it the folded over collar, gave it a little bit more structure, which pulled it in a bit. At that time I had made the sleeves, so it pulled the sleeves up a little bit. But by the time I finished all of this, this is how much green yarn I had left. So I was like, I really don't want sleeves that end here. That's just weird. So when I tried it on before blocking, the sleeves were a smidge too short. The length of the sweater was fine on my body, but after blocking, it is just perfect. So I couldn't have asked for a better sweater making experience. It was fun to play around with the stitch pattern and figuring out the sleeve decreases and doing the folded over hem. And I mean, it was a process because I wasn't just literally following a pattern. I was kind of making my own, sort of. And of course, because the end result turned out so well, I'm very, very pleased with the whole experience. So yes, sweater is finished. I did not finish it in time for it to count in my fall making. So fall ended on what, December 20th on the solstice, and I did not finish it in time for it to count for fall, which is fine. I kind of knew that was going to happen, but I had set a secondary goal of finishing it by Christmas, and that I did do. So I'm very, very happy. In total, I purchased 4 balls of each color. Each ball is 50 grams. So I had, what does that make? 400 grams? 400 grams total that I had purchased. You can see I used most of it. So I used in total, when I weighed the yarn, just over 7 skeins of between the two colors. I purchased this yarn on sale. So if you can see, I wrote the price on there myself, which is something I'm going to be doing more of in my stash. So when I purchased this earlier this year, these balls were originally $4.99 a piece, but I got them on sale, which made them $3.74 a piece. I had some from previous. I didn't write down the price from previous, so these numbers are going off of if I had purchased all 8 balls at this price. By using just over 7 skeins at $3.74 each skein, this sweater in yarn cost me $26.33. Now, I'm not including sales tax. I'm not including shipping, just the cost of materials. I mean, what? I was not expecting that. I was expecting the sweater to be more in materials. When I saw that number, I was like, okay, I am even more motivated to make more Knit Picks palette sweaters for myself. So you might be seeing some more of that in the future. In fact, these 2 brown boxes here in my cubby holder are full of Knit Picks palette yarn, So I am really motivated and inspired to craft another sweater out of that yarn. But of course not the same pattern, because why would I knit the same thing twice? Anyway, it's finished. I'm happy. I'm super excited about it, and I can't wait to make another one. The next finished object came off my needles and completely finished on Christmas. And that would be my Advent knitting. I had a couple of different Advent knitting projects going. One of them was the Advent mitten garland. That is not finished. That is not what I'm going to show you. That will be an ongoing project for next year. But I did finish the Mystery Gnome Knit Along from Imagine Landscapes. And this year's Mystery Gnome was themed around Nana. So this is the gnome Nana, and I'm going to show her to you. She is stinking cute, absolutely adorable. So there was a kit made with yarns as well as the little glasses accessory. I did not purchase that kit, just saying. But when it came time to put all the pieces of Nana together, I really felt like she needed those glasses. So she has this cute little hooded coat that she can wear, but she's also fully equipped with a hat and beautiful detailing on her body and these cute little braids and arms. I was worried she wouldn't have arms. And see, the glasses just bring it all together. So I had some jewelry wire in my stash, and I made these glasses. I think is probably the coolest part of this whole thing. Yeah, she is stinking cute. So this used up 130 yards out of my stash. It's not a stash buster project. There's a hair. But I always have fun. And I always learn something from making these little gnomes about shaping, about colors, about the fact that I do these as the mystery, so I don't always know what I'm making when I'm making it, and just trying to guess. Like during that whole process, I learned something, and I really enjoy that. I'm willing to take the risk on something as small as this. I'm not investing in a garment or a shawl where I don't know if it's going to fit my body type. It's a cute little decoration. It's something that I'm willing to take the risk on with unknown colors and patterns and shapes and things. So yeah, I'm super pleased with how Nana turned out. And she is joining my gnome family collection that has started up out of these Advent knitting adventures. So after making the set of dishcloths, the sweater, and the gnome, I thought for sure I had reached one of my goals this year, and that was to use more out of my stash than what I've brought in. So I've been keeping track all year long of how many yards of yarn I've purchased to bring into my stash and how many yards I use up every time I finish an object. And I didn't make it. I was about, I don't know, 200 yards shy of making my goal. And that was on Christmas when I finished the gnome that I tallied that up and went, oh my gosh, I have like 6 days left in the year. I've got to do something about this, or see if I can do something about this. And you guys, I did. So I snuck in one last finish object for 2024, and that is a pair of socks for my husband. So these are knit out of Knit Picks Felicini. Let me show you. label. Pellicini. So it's Felici yarn. It's the same yarn. So it's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It's a fingering weight yarn. But instead of the stripes being yay thick, they are yay thick. They're just thinner stripes, that's all. But it's the same yarn as Felici. The colorway is called Sunday Day Game. Sunday Day Game. And yeah, I used US size 1 knitting needles, 64 stitches. I knit cuff down. I use a German twisted cast on, which is my absolute favorite. 2x2 ribbing is the fit that Michael seems to like the best, so that's what I'm going with. So 2x2 ribbing all the way around the leg and down the instep. We've got a heel flap and gusset and a standard rounded toe. And I tried to offset the stripes a little bit. I think I achieved that goal okay. I dislike it when the striping is like off by a little bit, where it looks like you tried to match them but failed. What I would have done had I been home while knitting these, I took these on a road trip to go visit family, and I have quite a bit left still. Had I been home, what I would have done is after finishing the first sock, I would have got out my ball winder and wound it up in the other direction so that I would do the second sock with the stripes facing the other way. But I was on the road and I didn't have that. And even after finishing both socks, I still have like 30 grams left of the yarn, and it would have just been a lot of time of trying to wind this up. So what I did is I wound off a couple stripes of color and just cut it off and threw it away to try to offset the stripes. And I'm okay with it. I think it turned out all right, so that it's not frustrating me. Yeah. So this used, I think it was 315 yards out of my stash, which meant I met my goal of more out than in, although not by very much, but meeting a goal is still meeting a goal. Granted, I don't buy any more yarn today, which is not on my to-do list. Now this one, I did write down the price. I got this on sale in the same batch as my palette yarn. So original price was $7.79. I got this on sale for $5.84. This is a 100 gram ball. I used almost 3/4 of the skein. I used 72 grams. And so that means if I take 0.72 of a skein, which is what ended up in these socks, this pair of socks costs $4.20 in materials. I mean, would I go buy a pair of socks for that price? Yeah, probably, if they had a cute design on them. So yeah, so that's my last finished object for December, also for the calendar year, and I'm really glad that I snuck those in there. Now, there were some works in progress, things that I worked on in the month that didn't quite get finished. Some aren't even near being finished. One of those things is a mitten garland advent calendar thing. I will have links to these, any patterns that I talk about in the episode, I'll have linked down below in the description box, including this one right here. So I did start the mitten advent calendar, and I successfully completed mittens 1, 2, and 3, as in they're completely finished. Ends woven in, blocked. They've got the hanging loop. Like, these 3 are ready to go. So there's 1, there's 2, and there is 3. The 3 is hard to read, but 4 is finished but needs to be blocked. So you might be able to tell it's a bit wobbly wonky, but if we compare it to like this one, which is blocked, it looks so super smooth. So 4 is finished, it just needs to be blocked. 5 is still on the needles, unfortunately. But I love how 5 is turning out with like these mistletoe leaves. So yeah, basically I got to the point in the month where traveling to see family was coming up, and this was not a project that would be travel on an airplane or on a road trip friendly, so it did not come with me on either of my trips. I kind of had to make an executive decision. Because I couldn't keep up with both advents between the mittens and the gnome, and I decided I really wanted Nana to join the family this year, so I prioritized working on her. But yeah, I would like to continue this advent throughout 2025, maybe not wait until December. I would like to actually use the mittens next year to create an advent calendar for myself, and yeah, so just work on it throughout the year. What did travel well was another pair of socks. So I flew to North Carolina. I live in the Seattle area of Washington State, and I flew to North Carolina to see family. And so this sock project came with me. I made a lot of progress on sock number 1 on that trip, which involved flying. And then right after Christmas, we drove down to Northern California to visit more family, and this project came with me again, and I got sock number 2 finished. But knowing that I was working on sock number 2 and we were going to be in the car driving, I was curious if I was going to finish that and then still have time. So I packed a second project. That second project was another pair of socks. And sure enough, I did have time to make progress. So I have started another sock project. So this yarn is, shouldn't be a surprise, Knit Picks Felici. The color is Brittle. I just dropped the label. It is this bright, cheerful yellow color. Yellow is my favorite color. And so these are for me. I wanted some nice, bright, cheerful socks. And these are going to be shorter socks, if you couldn't tell. I do like, I like having both. The longer socks so they can go in my hiking boots, but on a daily basis, in my tennis shoes, I like to wear the shorter socks, just enough so that my ankle is protected from the top of my shoe. I don't like when the top of my shoe makes contact with my skin and rubs and causes blisters. So I'm making this basically just tall enough to do that. I used to wear even shorter socks, and I don't know, they don't work with my current shoes, and I need to make sure I have good shoes with good support in them, because I need to be kind to my knees and ankles and all of my joints. So slightly taller socks it is. Yeah, top down, German twisted cast on. I prefer 1x1 ribbing, so that's what I did here for 20 rounds. And I have my heel flap and gusset. I did the Eye of Partridge heel. And then I'm doing a nice cute little texture pattern here on the front. And while we were in the car, I was trying to think of a name for these socks because I think the color name Brittle is silly. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this kind of looks like corn on the cob. The color and the texture. So I'm calling these my corn on the cob socks. And I think it's funny. So yeah, I'm just cruising. I don't know if I told you the needle size. I'm using US size 1 needles. And for me, if I do US size 1 needles, I do 60 stitches. Sorry, I have my Invisalign trays in, and sometimes words are hard. For myself, if I use US size 1 needles, then 60 stitches is perfect. If I use US size 0 needles, then I need 64 stitches. So just depending on the gauge tightness of the fabric that I want. Mostly what decides is what needles are available at the moment, and then that's what I cast on with. So that's what's going on here. But yeah, that will carry on into next year as well. So on the last day of December, here is where I'm standing with my goal to use more out of my stash than what I bring in. What I have brought into my stash this year is 9,958 yards of yarn. Now, that also includes a little bit of hand spinning, where I turned fiber into yarn. I did count that as coming into my stash. Yards out of my stash, which I count when I finish a project. Throughout this year, I have used 10,122 yards out of my stash, meaning that I've met my goal to use more than what I bring in by only 164 yards. It's not very much, but I still met my goal, so I'm happy with that. I have to say, this goal has helped me kind of see how much I purchase and has helped curb, I don't know if it's helped curb the craving. I think the craving to get more yarn is still there, but it's helped me to not act on that impulse as much. So yeah, I would call it a success, and it is a goal that I am going to continue to have next year in 2025. Speaking of goals in 2025, I did post a video about my goals for next year. If you're interested, you should check that out. I'll have it pop up here at the end of the video for your convenience. But yeah, I have some goals in there, and there's a way that you can kind of join along with me if you would like to. So I will also have linked down below my Ravelry page. I have a DeHart House podcast, Ravelry forum group discussion board thing. Technical name right there. And what I did is I created a new board for knitting, crafting, crocheting, whatever goals for next year. So if you are curious and you think you might want to join along, check it out, follow the link, join it if you can. Otherwise, feel free to just follow along and see what I'm up to, share what you're up to, what did you make in December, and what are you up to next year? All right. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. I hope that you all have a fabulous New Year holiday. Whether you enjoy fireworks or don't, it's going to be an interesting night. Take care, and I will see you next time. Bye.